I started in my introduction by reading to you some a statement, a portion of a statement that was issued by the National Union of Ghana Students. And what is their concern? Their concern is that Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, the Deputy Minister of Education in charge of the tertiary sector, has been heard saying on media platforms that they agreed at a meeting of leaders of the tertiary institutions at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra, had agreed that they were going to pay utility bills. Not too long ago, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology was not being supplied, was it water and electricity as well, or just water? And it was difficult. The university couldn't pay. And so they were calling on the government to help them to pay that, that money. Now, government is saying that paying the utilities is no more sustainable. So that is going to have to be done by the students themselves. I refer to the KNUST. The Ghana Water Company cut water supply to KNUST for almost a week over a 6 million cedi debt that they had, and they called on government to pay. And these are the problems. Now, NUCS has issued a statement, and they say they were not part of any such discussion, and they are daring the minister to produce any communique that they signed on to in that regard. And they said in their concluding part of their statement, which I read to you in my introduction, they said that we wish to conclude by reiterating our long-standing impregnable position in respect of this matter, that NUCS shall vehemently resist any attempt by government to surcharge students for utility bills. That will not and cannot happen, else the students of this country will shake the very foundation of our government with an unwavering aluta. Well, in matters of student aluta, who who should I go to more appropriately than Egbert Faber? All right.
No, but Samson,
yes.
I think that it is shameful, you know, that we've gotten to where we've gotten to presently, to that NUCS will, you know, come out boldly to create a believable doubt with respect to the fact that government's claims that it had agreed to such a major, you know, intervention in student life is actually non-existent. And I have no basis to doubt what the students are saying. What happened to all this Campus Connect and the rest, that the likes of Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa and you know, Felix Ofosu Kwachi and Dr. Kpesa White. Kwachi Ofosu, yes. What has happened to it? You see, communication is important. And I as someone who, you know, during my student days was involved in some of these things, the likes of Ayona Idrisu, Baba Jamal, Elvis Efri Ankara, and a whole host of Mama Yariga and a whole host of others. I'm surprised that stoic, you know, proponents of government sponsorship of students will be in government today and will be the ones championing this. You see, the students look at the personalities who are leading this, and that makes it even worse.
Okudzeto is a former NUCS president.
Yeah, Okudzeto, Elvis Efri Ankara SRC president, Baba Jamal, local NUCS president. I recall one
Dr.
incident.
Manibuama.
Yes, Dr. Manibuama. I recall one incident between Dr. Chambers and Baba Jamal on GTV.
Right.
It was terrible.
I remember that.
It was terrible. I mean, there are things that I don't want to say. You see, so when you want to introduce policies like this, it started from academic facility user fees to residential facility user fees, yeah, and all the rest of it. Today, we've gotten to a point where they are being told that they are going to pay for utilities. Nobody, I believe, is in principle against payment for utilities. You understand? But when you have a government that is so profligate, Saddam monies, Suba, I mean, mention all the scandals, put the monies together. Why would you then look students in the face and say, pay for electricity consumed? When you are living big and large, look, the students are in an incubator. They are our future. They are the ones who in the near future are going to take their rightful places in society and drive our developmental agenda forward. If we cannot sacrifice for our students to get quality education, then we might as well close shop.
Can I please get you clearly? Because you are saying that you are not sure anybody in principle will be against it.
Good.
And yet you are saying we ought to be sacrificing for the students. So what are you saying?
There's no dissonance in what I'm saying. The leitmotif of what I'm trying to put out is that let government show proper fiscal discipline first. Because if you show proper fiscal discipline, it will free up monies in a way that the minuscule that will go to the universities. You understand? Because you see, there's a certain dissonance also in the students' argument. There are students who live in the traditional halls.
Right.
And there are students who live in hostels.
Private.
Why should your friend in a hostel pay for electricity, whilst you who live in the traditional hall not pay? It is discriminatory. We need to have a certain convergence where there will be uniformity across board. But until we get there, let government show leadership.
But if you ask the students who live in the private hostels, they'll tell you how expensive it is to live in those hostels.
I agree.
And there are a good number of the students in the traditional halls who just can't afford to be in these hostels.
It is true.
And you will find also that somehow, I don't have any statistics, but somehow you find that students of wealthy background are the ones who are in the majority occupying the private hostels.
Samson, I agree with you. I mean, these are realities that we face every day. I mean, it is also not the case that when people leave Ghana and go to Europe or the Americas for postgraduate education, every undergrad education, they don't pay for utilities in their halls or hostels or whatever of residence. But we are a developing nation. We say we are middle income, lower middle income, and all the rest. But what is actually the issue of the students from what the remote sensing have done is that they see a lot of waste around. They see a lot of corruption in government, some superintended by government, some with government as beneficiary. Why don't you cut all these valves first and save some money and ensure that the student, core is at least protected, insulated from the harsh realities of the times. You understand? So for instance, if you want to level it, perhaps those in the hostels, there should be a certain attraction that if you live in a hostel, okay, government is going to give you a small stipend. You understand? A small, top up or something. It can be worked out in a certain way. But until that is done, what the students are saying, if you listen to them clearly, you get to realize that no, they have issues with the fact that in the face of unmitigated corruption, escalating corruption on the part of government, I mean, increasing government expenditure, government appointments, cronyism, and the rest. Why should we be made to suffer for it? Of course, there's also that classical argument of, but when you guys were here, apart from even free utilities, you were even eating for free as well. The students have consistently held up these arguments. I'm saying that times have changed. We need to change with them. But for a government that wants to drive this, it should be seen to be the most dynamic government, the government that has worked the most to end corruption in this country. And that is not this government.
Right. James, I hear what Egbert is saying. And these are student leaders, those who issued a statement, Idi Mohayu Dean, who is the NUC's General Secretary, and Rodelin Eshen, who is the Press and Information Secretary. They say that NUC's is coming under pressure from the students. And I can understand this sort of pressure. Egbert used to give it to the NUC's presidents a lot. When they go agree on certain things that students do not agree, from Commonwealth, they will issue the orders and you have to obey. So how should the students go about this? Should they simply say, well, since government has determined that this is what has to be, we should, allow it, or we should ask that it be shared. We pay a certain percentage out of the amount or something like that, instead of the threat of unwavering alluta that will shake the foundations of government?
Well, Samson, that threat for me is unfortunate. And it's unbecoming of many a student leader. But the most important thing is, did NUCS take part in issuing a joint declaration comprising all the stakeholders, the UTAC, the Polytechnics Teachers Association, the Teachers Association of Education Training Colleges, etc.? Did they take part in issuing a joint declaration
signed
with the government, duly signed? Duly signed. I would give you the names. Did they take part? That is the most important question we must answer. Now, clearly, Samson, I have a document here. It's in electronic form.
Okay, from your phone?
It's in electronic form. Electronic documents are even admissible in court.
Nobody has disputed
They are
that.
admissible in court. And so in this forum, they are equally admissible.
We have actually passed a law to back that. Egbert is so aware of it.
Now, Samson, clearly this joint declaration, and let me read the heading. It reads, Joint Declaration on Utilization and Management of Utilities in Public Tertiary Education Institutions in Ghana, March 25th, 2015. And the participants at the stakeholder consultations, which culminated in this joint declaration, reads as follows. The participants, the stakeholders who participated in the meeting were the National Council for Tertiary Education, the Vice Chancellors, Ghana, the Committee of Polytechnic Rectors, the Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education, the National Accreditation Board, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, Polytechnic Teachers Association of Ghana, the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, and it goes on and on and on, including NUCS, GNUPS. Now, at the tail end of the declaration, these were the signatories. Now, let me read the fourth paragraph. The Energy Commission's recommendations on standards on electricity appliances should be adapted and enforced in tertiary education institutions to foster the conservation of energy. Signed, Professor Jane Opoku Ajiman, Minister of Education. 2, Professor N.N. Nsoa Nyama, President, Committee of Polytechnic Rectors. Mr. Prosper Jechi, President, National Union of Ghana Students. Professor Mahama Duwejua.
I think that's sufficient. That you have named
the question is,
so where exactly is the electricity thing coming?
The electricity thing.
And at the Energy Commission.
Look at the. Let me read. I think paragraph 3 of the declaration. It's most instructive, and it talks about cost sharing. 1, the cost of utilities in public tertiary education institutions should be shared between the government, tertiary education institutions, staff, students as follows. Government should bear the cost of utilities applied to academic, teaching and learning, research and facilities, health and administrative facilities in public tertiary education institutions. Students on campus should bear the cost of utilities in students' residential facilities, especially as more than 70% of students currently live in private hostels off campus and pay for their utilities, thus creating an unfair arrangement where government subsidies benefit
to charge them for it. Why compare it to those who are in the private?
now, something.
Yes.
The point is,
so who signed what?
This is a joint declaration. That is why I am at a loss. So I'm posing a question.
My brother, there's no signature on the document. The students are saying that.
This is in electronic form.
The students are saying that they were there,
yes,
but they did not sign any
communique. Is this coming from?
You have just put together a document and have put people's names beneath it. There's no signature.
No, Egbert. Who is the president of NUCS?
You have mentioned him.
Is his signature?
Is he the one who issued the statement something read?
No.
He is not.
Yes.
Why is he not the one?
A question which is legitimate. Is there a signature?
Yes, on this electronic document.
They are the ones supposed to have signed.
The problem with electronic documents,
yes,
you may not see signatures, but it doesn't mean it's not signed.
An electronic document can be a document that is scanned.
You
could have scanned the sign. They say they never signed
any sign. They are asking the minister to publish that one.
Yes. Now, he is saying that Nook's story is believable. And I'm saying that this disclaimer ought to have been made by the president of Nooks, whose name is mentioned here in this document.
So no other official of Nooks can make this.
So what is the position of the president? Is there a division in the front of the student front?
Nooks presidents have been impeached for committing Nooks.
Has this president been impeached?
You think it's okay for the students to be asked to pay, for using electricity in their residences?
If you look at the statistics which have been churned out, they're saying that 70% of students are already paying for the utilities in private hostels. And that number, 70%, is huge. So if we are saying that 30% who live in, the halls of residence, the traditional halls, should be exempted from paying utilities, does it not amount to discrimination? These are the issues that ought to be looked at. In any case, Samson, my position on the matter is that if Nooks is now putting out this disclaimer, why? Let's go back to the negotiating table and discuss the issues further. It doesn't augur well for anybody to say issue threats and say they would embark upon an unwavering alluta which would shake the very foundations of government. For me, that is a reckless statement which ought not to be countenanced.
Because they want to go on alluta.
Thank you, gentlemen.
But you enjoyed alluta.
Sorry, gentlemen. It's good you point out that James enjoyed alluta.
Samson,
I'm very certain.
No, Samson was my JCR president.
Just hold on.
I was very temperate.
Now, I am very certain that when James and I were on campus, that if we had been asked to pay for our utilities, it may have been difficult. For somebody like me, I can say it would have been very difficult for me. Why should the students agree to pay?
Okay. The idea is that it's not something bad. I am even aware that even lecturers' bungalows, the meters are now being changed to prepaid.
Right, that's part of the communication.
Yeah, so even if lecturers are paying for the utilities that they consume, I think it's fair that students pay. Most of the students even use...
Oh, because lecturers are paying, it's fair students pay.
No, I'm just making a point. I recite to disseminate information, and I'm charged to pay for the utilities.
Says government will pay for the utilities when you use it in your laboratories, in your
lecturers
not in your residence.
Yes. So, but it's the residence. We don't charge them for sitting in the lecture room and using the facility at the residence, hall of residence. So they must pay. They use the facilities, and some of them even use electric cookers, which escalates the consumption.
Not only electric cookers, the things that
a lot of things.
You'll be shocked.
And they even cook beans. They use it to cook beans. So the fact is that I am not...
The beans will cook it a lot. I'm telling you. Look, it's a savior. Please don't ridicule it.
Ask Agaga. He was my legal secretary. And the Crawford Hall was noted for... My hall, for example, was noted for that. So I'm not just...
It is not true. It is not true that it's in the Crawford Hall that a lot of beans is cooked.
Remember, he was the president,
when you were in 10, I was in first year. Right? But the point I want to make is that, you see, why should students pay for something that doesn't even come handy? Yeah. Seriously speaking, this is not the time we should be talking about these things. Look, you wake up at home, there's no lights. You go to the office, there's no lights. Sometimes 2 days in a week, working days, we have lights. Only 2 working days in a week. You can sit in the office. You can't do any administrative work. And students face the same thing. They don't even have lights to study. And you are charging them.
In fact, there are lectures that are supposed to happen at a certain time of the evening that are not being held anymore.
No, seriously. Look, sometimes you have to cancel your lecture. Political science, we have large classes. You come over 700, 800 students, JQB, thingies, you have to shout. No mic, no lights. So why should we be paying for these services at the time that they're not even available?
Frantic efforts are being made.
That's my concern. That's my concern.
Again, maybe if students are being made to take part of the cost, they will now become aware of, become selective. They will not bring their fridges and all those gadgets onto campus.
Well, I'm not sure we are about to turn the campuses into jungles. They must live and live well. Yeah. Here we are, a middle-income country. Now we have oil revenue line. I know the population has grown, even on the campuses.
Oil revenue line. Today we will know our fate, whether we will continue to exploit that oil or not.
I think we will win. Even if we don't win this temporary transitional victory, we'll get the ultimate. But I think even this one.
Yes, it's an injunction they're asking for, but in the balance of the arbitration process, they call it a provisional measures.
That's right. So it's worrying that we've reached such a state and we are squabbling over this matter. I think it's because we haven't managed our resources well. We haven't distributed our resources well. We better take another critical look. This very critical area, education, you know, tertiary education and the rest. So we should be very careful. It's not everybody who can contain and sustain that kind of budget. We are not careful, we'll create serious rifts in the society.
But it has been expected, hasn't it? Gradually, we went to academic user facility, residential user facility, and now we are here.
There were flashpoints for agitation.
Cost sharing.
All those things were flashpoints for agitation. Right. Some of those who are today in government were part of the agitation then. I used to recall when I used to perch on campus. Very good time there, back. I was eating at the dining well, doing all those things. People thought I was a student. I was a squatter, you know. But whatever it is, I think we should take another look at the policy. Okay. But one point, and I'm sorry to go back, my brother James, the point I made about his assertion being of dubious validity. It is emphasized by the fact that, you see, the 14 point something he was talking about was based on the old GDP, whilst the nearly 12% was the new GDP. So again, the duplicity is clear.
But the students
excuse
are
my
really
language.
The students are really upset that what they have not signed has been communicated to the majority of Ghanaians that they signed. And
okay. It's a very simple challenge to Samuel Okudzeto. They say, publish the communique that they signed.
With a signature.
They want to see it, yes. Publish that as evidence. Yes, go ahead.
My saying that the Crawford Hall was noted was just a joke, because that's why students.
I know about it.
That's why the students used to say.
I know about it. Yeah.
But Samson, on a more serious note, you see, my brother Egbert tried to link the NUC's disclaimer to corruption on the part of a government. And
in
for
government,
me,
corruption in government,
yes,
not on the part of government.
Well, whatever the phraseology is.
It refers to the trainee students being angry at the ministers. And you know what Lord Amwan has said, if you can afford V8s, I mean, which cost in excess of $300,000 or so, then the students may have a point.
I am an MP. As for V8s, we buy them from our meager salary. We are the least paid, MPs in this sub-region. And so my salary has been slashed by half. It's a question of choice. So by the time I end my tenure as an MP for 4 years, if I don't have anything to take home, that is the choice I made.
Okay.
But in any case, let me quickly respond to this whole thing about corruption. That it is the usual mantra of the opposition, which
Ghanaians
must be discouraged. It must be discouraged. I have made this point before, I will repeat it. It was President Kufuor who once remarked that corruption is as old as Adam and Eve.
And assessing you challenge.
That's right. You see,
and that is why President Mahama says that
we have dealt with corruption and continue to deal with corruption.
That's why President Mahama says he's a dead goat.
People are in court, they are standing trial, etc.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, as always, my outfit is provided for by Latida. That is where you get the very best in African print and more. You can call them on 02656500918 or 020-433-6444. That is the line to call Latida on. And Star Assurance, you can reach Star Assurance on 0302-240-632, or you log on to starassurance.com. And also for Bank of Africa, who are your solid partners, you can also reach them on 0244-33-8226, 0244-33-8226. Sasso insecticide spray, that's the very best on the market. that you need to get now. My guests on the show today have been Abdul Malik Kweko Jr. Abdul Malik Kweko is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Dr. Ali Seidu is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Political Science Department. James Agalga is the Deputy Interior Minister, is a barrister at law, and Egbert Fable is also a barrister at law, and he's the Magas. Have a good afternoon. My name is Samson Ladi, and this show is repeated at 9:30 tonight.